So look at this beautiful day. So still on the Huon River at the moment. Somebody burning off leaf litter or something in the distance. Sorry about all the jiggling. I thought this camera had some better stabilizers on it, but apparently not. I'm a little bit kind of appalled and very fearful for US citizens at the present time with the lack of financial support that they've been given during this COVID-19 pandemic. And you know, this $1,200 US dollars is just not going to cut it, obviously. And it just shows the contempt that the government has. Well, both sides really. I'm talking about the Democratic Party and the GOP, because the Democratic Party, I don't see a whole lot of pushing for that, for any sort of improvement. Maybe I'm missing something. But the Trump administration has really dropped the ball majorly on this, but it's no surprise really, because corporations are their focus, not people. And this is what happens in disaster capitalism. The people are just really in many ways irrelevant. And I saw an amazing photo of Austin, Texas, of huge lines of cars heading to a food bank. 10,000 or something people heading to food banks, and they're running out of food in Austin, Texas. I mean, I really fear for what's going to happen. Like, if $1,200 is supposed to last people for 3 months, I mean, that's ridiculous, right? But then there's no sign of, and I think that there's no sign of anything after that. It puts a lot of people in a terrible state of anxiety, which of course affects your immune system. And there's like, 15 million people out of work. This is sort of insane. So it's like, there are people who, undocumented immigrants who aren't even on the radar, intentionally so. And there's been some efforts, I think, to help them by, say, certain states. I'm not fully up on where this is at, but I just fear for all these US citizens who are just largely abandoned by their government. You know, I thought that it was going to be a bad response, but I didn't think it was going to be this bad. Like, I didn't think that it was going to be as bad as this, where the government was just going to give people a ridiculous amount of money, insufficient money, and there doesn't seem to be any sign of any further money coming. And I'm wondering whether they're basically doing that so it forces people to go out and work in dangerous circumstances and putting themselves at risk and other people at risk. And if they don't give them any further money, which forces people out to do work in dangerous circumstances, it works in the way of opening up the economy without officially opening it up, because you're forcing people to go out and work. And if they do decide to prematurely open up the economy, which is something Trump seems to be desperate to do, that means that even though it's dangerous and people go out to work, if they don't go out to work, and if they don't go out, then they're not, then it's, you know, basically Trump's not going to give them any more money, so it forces people to go out to work. So even if you want to protect yourself and the people around you and the vulnerable groups like people with cardiac conditions and diabetes and kidney conditions and all that, it's not just old people who suffer from asymptomatic, people who are heavy shedders of this virus. It's going to be a whole bunch of other different groups. So, you know, but if you go out because you have to, because Trump isn't going to give anybody any more money, and he's not going to, I mean, he's just not going to, I don't think, then you're putting so many people, that it forces people into a situation where they're putting lots of people's lives at risk, including their own or their families and partners, etc. So it's just, I don't know, it's just appalling to watch. I mean, we have a right-wing government here they're just awful, and the leader, Scott Morrison, is I think he believes in the rapture. He follows this kind of very cultish type Hillsong Christian evangelist church, Christian in quotes. I think that the states pushed him into doing something. The states in Australia pushed him into doing something responsible. So the response by the Australian government has been better. It wasn't good in the beginning, but it's been much better, and we're actually flattening the curve at the present time. So we're very fortunate in that way that the states were responsible and pushed him to do something. I feel anxious for people in the US. Of course, there are other countries that are suffering too: Italy, Iran, etc. I'm just thinking about the US at the present time, and just the fact that the government has completely abandoned people, and I just like how people weren't able to pay their rent in April. A lot of people, and I think a third of Americans didn't pay their rent. What about all the utility bills and stuff? Are they going to start turning off utilities if people can't pay? There was some talk even of banks sort of taking the $1,200 if a person has a credit card debt. And what Dr. Stephanie Kelton, who was Bernie Sanders' 2016-2020 economic advisor, sort of suggested, was that people are given a debit card, and which is regularly sort of deposited into, and or just given them a certain amount of money in the debit card, and also a coronavirus test kit and and a mask and everything, and that should be given to every American, just as just for starters. This should tell every single US citizen. This should spell it out clearly how little your government cares about you. How much they think about, they bail out the Mars Bars Corporation. They bail out all kinds of corporations. They're giving out money left, right, and center. They're happy to see small businesses go under because big businesses can just snaffle it up. They can just buy them up. This is where big business buys up people's assets. If after this is all over, there's a lot of people that are bankrupt and they have to forego their house and all of this. These big businesses, like they do in every downturn like this, they'll just swoop in and buy up all the assets. This is how it goes. So this is a business opportunity, a big business opportunity for large corporations and property owners, wealthy property owners, wealthy people, oligarchs, etc. This is a huge business opportunity, and they're just happy to see the US citizens just drowning. I don't know. I find this sort of so frightening and appalling to see. It's just all in plain sight that they're telling you they do not care about you at all, and they're quite happy to see you floundering financially and either unable to make ends meet at all. So I don't know. I just can't. I'm having trouble thinking about how this is going to end. Are they going to just let this play out, and U.S. citizens are just in a lot of U.S. citizens are just in dire stretches, and they're just happy to let that go on. I mean, really, it's sort of scary because you just don't know how they're always propping up corporations, but they just don't seem to show not even any reassurance. And you can't even believe Donald Trump when he says things. I mean, he lies all the time. So even though he might even say things like that people who go to hospital for coronavirus, that their expenses will be covered, really? Can anybody truly believe what he says? And if in the end they get a bill, who's going to know? Who's going to know and who's going to care after the fact? It's all about optics for him. He doesn't even know the difference between what a bacterial infection is and what a viral infection is. That's how fucking stupid he is. You would think you'd find out the difference between a viral infection and a bacterial one. Propping up this hydroxychloroquine, whether he has shares in that drug company, who knows? Or, he's doing a favor for his friends who produce that drug. so that they'll give him a payback at some point. Who knows? I mean, it's just a kleptocracy there. Anyway, I just wanted to express my anxiety and fear for US citizens with how this is being handled, how badly it's being handled, and how they're not even trying to pretend. They're not even trying to pretend that they are trying to support the citizens of the country. There's not even any slight pretense of that. I mean, if you know of any talk about giving people any more money to make ends meet, please leave comments in the comments section. But I just haven't heard of anything beyond this $1,200, and I don't know about any sort of. I don't know if it's all reliant on the states in the suspension of rent and suspension of loans and mortgages. I don't know. In Venezuela, the government, the Maduro government, even though they've tried to oust him and there's a right-wing fascist leader being pushed into place there, but in Venezuela they've suspended rents for 6 months. They've what else have they done? They banned evictions, and I think that they're financially supporting people who are out of work. I mean, that's what a government does. That's a real government. All this shitting on socialism, this is the thing. They actually know how to look after people when there's a crisis like this, which is what governments are supposed to do. See, they're public servants. People that are voted in are public servants. There seems to be this forgetting why these people are in office in the first place. They're in office because you voted them in, or at least in countries where voting is, there's no electoral fraud, unlike the United States, which appears to be widespread electoral fraud and voter suppression. But, these are public servants that are meant to serve you the people, not corporations. Corporations are not people, even if they've bought into law or something like that. See, that just says everything in the US. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. I'm just fearful of how this is going to play out for US citizens. And I also worry about independent journalists who I sometimes wonder where on earth they get their money from, because it can't be they can't survive on what people give them in Patreon and, in live streams or whatever. So I already wonder how they support themselves. And then this happens. And I think, is this going to destroy some independent news sources like the Empire Files or, the Grey Zone? And I just don't know how they're going to manage to get by if the government, and there doesn't seem to be any sign that the government is going to do the right thing. So, I don't know. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. So thanks for watching. The reason I'm showing this river is because there's probably a lot of you that don't get out much at the moment with these stay-at-home orders and all of that. So I just thought I would show the lovely Huon River and look at the reflection on the river. It's so great. So anyway, that's why I'm doing it this way at the moment. So thanks so much for watching. My name's Trish Roberts. You're watching Faint Signals from Vega. Till next time. Bye for now.